The book of Leviticus tells us that we announce the Jubilee year with a blast upon the ram's horn. And so we begin the Jubilee year for our congregation, our third Jubilee year with a blast upon the ram's horn. And like on Rosh Hashanah, where the ram's horn calls us to awaken and to rededicate ourselves, so does the ram's horn now call us to awaken and dedicate ourselves to the values that this congregation has stood for so many years. Now let us turn to the people who surround us, the people to the left of us and the right of us, people in front of us and behind us. Let's extend our hands in friendship and welcome Shabbat. During the course of our service this evening, there will be several people who will be standing up and sharing with you their reflections and their memories of their life here at Temple Emanuel. How Temple Emanuel in some way or another touched their lives. How it shed a little light, a little warmth, a little love. Something they're proud of, something that sticks with them. Let us pause now and silently reflect upon those forces in our lives, those people in our lives, those organizations in our lives, to make life just a little better for us, and how we can dedicate ourselves. I now call upon Linda and Suzanne Golden to kindle the Shabbat candles.
In darkness we kindle light.
Light so that we can see.
Light so that we can avoid stumbling blocks and pitfalls along our way.
On Shabbat we kindle candles.
For Shabbat, which is right out of our lives.
The light of Shabbat is a holy light.
It is the light
That rests from our neighbors. It is the light of communion with God. It is the light of bonding with our Jewish people. It is the light of affirming our heritage of faith and blessing.
For 150 years, Temple Emanuel has shed the light of our faith upon our community.
we
We
have
have been a beacon of sacred service to God, of Jewish education for our children, of reformed Jewish values and teachings to our people, of the pursuit of justice for all of God's children.
As we kindle these candles, may we always open our lives to the blessings of Shabbat.
As we kindle these candles, may our congregation ever strengthen its efforts to remain a beacon of faith and Torah, of community and justice across cities and the world.
Asher Kedishanu B'mitzvot Sav, V'tzivanu L'hadlik Ner Shel Shabbos.
Let
God, sovereign of the universe, who hallows us with your mitzvot and commands us to kindle the lights of Shabbat.
As Rabbi, my responsibilities call upon me to spend a fair amount of time in our cemetery. Yet it may surprise some of you to learn that there are times when I go to the cemetery when there is no service to perform. I go to stroll and to visit. Our cemetery contains two sections, divided by a road. There is what we have come to call the new section, and then there is the old one. Not surprisingly, all the burials at which I have officiated have been in the new section. Often I wander this section visiting friends now gone. People like Larry Satin and Tony Gail, Bruce Katz and David Weigle, Neil Leonard and Nikki Light, Esther and Manny Sudhalter, Isidore Katz and Evelyn Alter, and so many others. There are other times, however, when I find myself wandering the old section. I knew none of those buried there personally. Most died long before I was born. Yet there, too, I find friends. For there are buried so many who made possible the very existence of this congregation. I visit the grave of Rabbi Isaac Fall, the first rabbi to serve Temple Emanuel. His was the longest tenure in our pulpit until I came along. 15 years from 1875 to 1890. He was an Orthodox rabbi who in 1879 supported our transition to Reform Judaism. I visit the graves of John Knox, Michael Raphael, and Max Fetter, who were the founders of the cemetery. Max Fetter was a knowledgeable layperson who led our congregation's very first service. And John Knox was the president in 1879 when the decision was made to join the Union of American Hebrew Congregations. I visit the grave of Moses Emanuel Rothschild, the patriarch of the family that made such a major donation to the building of our first home that the building itself was named after him, Temple Emanuel, a name that soon came to replace our original name, B'nai Israel. When asked what separates human beings from the other life forms in God's creation, many will respond that it is the opposable thumb. But more than the thumb, I think that it is our sense of history. We know who came before us, and we understand that they have left us a legacy, one upon which we build our own lives as well as the future. Cantor and I have decided that we will be buried in the old section of our cemetery, close to the road, overlooking the new. We so chose so that we could hold on to the past, gaze upon the present, and pray for the future. We are here this evening celebrating our 150th anniversary, an achievement which is due in no small part to the efforts of those buried in our old section of our cemetery. They left us a magnificent legacy. Now it is up to us to leave a fitting legacy for future generations.
Shalom,
My first memories of Temple Emanuel were of a time and place when we were in between buildings of our own. We were renting space in a church on Brady Street. The building was dark and cool inside. And I remember a balcony where we kids would run back and forth and play games. I remember coming to services with my parents, and all the men were dressed in suits and ties, something like today. And all the women wore dresses and hats, very elaborate, and even then, to my young mind, pretty fancy. I always wondered if those hats were supposed to be some kind of substitute gown. I remember years in Sunday school where my mother was a third-grade teacher. Somehow, through those years growing up in the larger world, those teachers managed to give me a foundation in Jewish history, religion, culture, and living. I remember my bar mitzvah and confirmation study with Rabbi Zion, and what our God seemed like to me at the time. He was tall, had a commanding and persuasive voice, and he was very kind to us kids. Rabbi Markman and I did what we could to cause trouble, of course. Rabbi never came. I remember a service that my grandfather, Ben Stewart, and I attended, where he must have talked quite a bit. I actually know he talked. Because my next confirmation class, Rabbi Zion asked me not to talk to my grandfather. And I told my grandfather, he laughed, and he had a good chuckle, but we never talked again during the service. My greatest gift from Temple Emanuel, however, was my formative years, or in my formative years, was sending me to nifty regional conferences and conclaves and Camp Schwader, or Mopti, where I met a lot of other Jewish kids outside my family and the temple. I didn't know there were so many other Jewish kids around. It was eye-opening to learn that there was a Jewish world out there and that I would find my place in it. I found that place, ironically, here at Temple Emanuel, where Mary and I have raised our child, Emily, and where she celebrated her various life cycle events so far. Temple Emanuel has been my Jewish home away from home, and I hope it has at least another 150 years of children to raise and teach Jewish values to the next couple of years.
Please please rise for the call of leadership, followed by the Shabbat and
Rabbi Karp wrote a great creative service. We presented each past president with a silver finish cup engraved with their name and dates of their service. The idea came from a biennial of the UHC, which I attended. Each past president was asked to give a short speech on reflections of his presidency. Each speech was very insightful and also many times very humorous. I think each person spent a great deal of time trying to make his talk as interesting as possible. Many congregants attended the service, and I was very pleased with the reception that the service received. I hope someday we can do a service like that again. Thank you.
My parents were always members of both Temple Emanuel and the Tri-City Jewish Center, so I experienced the richness of growing up in a small Midwestern Jewish community where most every Jew knew every other. I wouldn't trade it. My religious education took place at Temple Emanuel. My Sunday school class was 16 strong and very lively as we challenged teachers Trudy Moses, Beverly Ginsburg, Bud Cohen, Matt Farber, and Bruce Balch. We had a junior choir, complete with green robes, and a real music teacher, Mrs. Morgan, constantly exhorted us to sing from our stomachs, not from our heads. Long Island students, including Barb Goldstein, Donna Cutler, Bobby Ransom, and my siblings, Karp, always hoping the bridge would open, so we could sing. Girl could have a bas mitzvah, as we called it then, at Temple Emanuel in the days of Rabbi Zion. I remember the event with wonderful nostalgia, though in those days we were not allowed to either lift the Torah or write our own speeches. 16 of us were confirmed here with Rabbi Leiner. We performed a cantata sent out by the UAHC, which was definitely in vogue at that time. My teen years were very much shaped by the B'nai B'rith Youth Organization that had more than 100 members in my day. We had a newspaper, a community service team, volleyball and softball teams, and even sponsored 3 formal dances for Jewish teens each year. We traveled all over Illinois from Chicago to Champaign, competing, socializing, and praying with other Jewish teens. After college, I moved away, and at times I lived in places that were far from Jewish congregations, on the Zuni Indian Reservation, the Sierra in Mexico, and in Kenya. At other times, I belonged to congregations in Albuquerque, Santa Fe, and El Paso. Though these congregations were all nice, they never had for me the at-home feel of Temple Emanuel. 25 years later, I moved back to Rock Island and accepted a teaching job just 3 blocks from the site of my original home in the 9th Street Shul, now the Martin Luther King Center. Once again, I was a member of Temple Emanuel. Talk about full circle. When I walked into the temple for the first High Holy Day services after my return, I felt a rush of familiarity, minus the ladies wearing new hats and blue white gloves. And of course, Betty Cockrell was still answering the temple's phone in the same easy way she had throughout my time. I joined the Sisterhood Board and fell in love with the camaraderie of the temple's women of Reform Judaism, including a few faces I knew, together with many people who had arrived in the Quad Cities after I left. As a kid, I was kind of a nerd who liked religious school, and especially the 9th grade curriculum, which centered around comparative religion. So it seems fitting that I now teach that course at the temple. I have had great fun getting to know the temple's teens and noting the differences from my era, with the addition of cell phones, students in shorts, and bagel breakfasts. What remains the same is the spirit of Temple Emanuel, that has been so much a part of my life.
Mi hamo kama elimadonai, mi kamo hane kodesh, norate hilo, don't say fele, norate hilo, don't say fele.
Says your reflections, but really what I'm about to say is probably that's the key word, is destiny. As I reflect on my experiences as a long-time member of Temple Emanuel, I'd like to offer the following ironies. First, I met the love of my life when we were both students at the University of Colorado. Ironically, both of our families were in the furniture business. We were married in 1950 and joined the Reformed congregation in Denver where we were living. Ironically, the name of that congregation was and is Temple Emanuel. Temple Emanuel in Denver began a building fund drive and hired an architect by the name of Percival Goodman to design the new building. Ironically, the same man designed the building that we're in. 1960, urban renewal fever hit Denver, and our store building was purchased by the city and torn down. My dad retired, and I was looking for either a new location or to purchase an existing business. I received a phone call from my brother-in-law, Ken Freeman, advising me that a good store has been put on the market in Davenport. That store is Shabbat. Ironically, we said goodbye to Rabbi Zion, Joel's son. And hello, Rabbi Zion, Marcus Zion. And we moved here. Anyway, guess what we were observing, if I correctly remember, at Temple Emanuel. It was the 100th anniversary. And we commemorated it. We had dinner at the outing club.
Soon after becoming a resident of the Quad Cities. At that time, it was the practice for many of the younger board members to come to the temple on Sunday mornings when our kids were in Sunday school, read the paper, drink coffee, and kibitz around with each other. I spent a lot of time here then, and this was put to good use when I became president a few years later. What I learned during that time is that for our children, Temple Emanuel is their portal to the world of Judaism. What they learn here will be with them for the rest of their lives. If we teach them well, their lives as Jews will be fulfilling, and they will contribute to the Jewish world around them. I was very fortunate in this regard. Marissa has grown up into a great woman, a mother of two grandchildren, the smartest grandchildren in the world. And has chosen as her profession a career as a Jewish professional, working as Director of Development for the St. Louis chapter of the National Council of Jewish Women. This Sunday she will travel with other young Jewish women leaders to Israel to further their knowledge and commitment to Judaism. Her commitment was born in our home, where she learned how a Jewish family operates, and was nurtured here at Temple Emanuel. She was consecrated, bat mitzvah, and confirmed on this very pulpit. Her commitment continues in her career and in her own Reformed congregation in St. Louis, where she will become a member of the Board of Directors this year. Temple Emanuel can be very proud of its children and the way that we have brought Reformed Judaism alive for them. Rabbi Karp talks about the tenure tradition at all our bar and bat mitzvahs. We can only hope that the tenure tradition that links us all together continues for another 150 years, and that in the far future, Jewish children will still be receiving what Marissa did from Temple Emanuel.
I can't recall how old my first year of Sunday school, and I don't remember off the top of my head the date of my bat mitzvah or confirmation. But I do remember the way I felt on Sunday morning, sitting in the sanctuary and sitting next to my Jewish friends. I remember so well the mini service Cantor and Rabbi would hold before Sunday school started. I loved the singing and Rabbi's sermons and stories. Even now, I am older and able to enjoy and relive this all again through teaching kindergarten at Temple. I realize how blessed I have been and how being Jewish and growing up in the Temple Emanuel family has made me the person I am today. Over the years, I've been to other synagogues and I have attended many Shabbat services, including in Israel. And I've enjoyed them all, but growing up in Temple Emanuel and feeling so comfortable in the synagogue and feeling the presence of God stronger here than I do anywhere else is why I love Temple. Over the last several years, I would hear a little voice in my head saying, "Sarah, it's time to go to Friday night Shabbat service." And even though I ignored it many times, still the times I would go, I felt so happy and even a little guilty because I felt I got so much from the service, yet I knew that it would be too long before I would make it back to another Shabbat. When I was a teenager, I went to a Jewish camp called Yoffie in Indiana. And I had heard a song, and the main verse said, "I will not take these things for granted." That song reminds me of Temple and how I always thought to myself, Rabbi will always be there, Cantor will always sing her beautiful melodies, and Oneg and Kala will always be made. I have taken Temple for granted, but this last year when Rabbi was out and had surgery is the first time I thought, who will be there for services? Who will take care of all that he does? Most temples I have been to have designated people, for instance, to help with our bat mitzvah training and confirmation, but not Rabbi Karp. He does it all on his own. I didn't realize how much work it was to put together lessons, and now that I am teaching 5-year-olds, oy vey. A special memory I have is the time my mom Judy would play Debbie Friedman songs on her way to many visits with the Jewish seniors in the area. She loved Temple and she loved doing mitzvot for so many people in the community. I broke my ankle last July in an accident and I was feeling down and not able to do much cooking. I got a call from Temple asking if I needed anything and I said maybe a few meals. That week I got a delivery of enough food to feed the Israeli army. I loved it. That's what it's all about, folks, the giving, the volunteering, and just lending a hand for our Temple family. The feeling I get every time I step foot in the sanctuary, the feeling I got when I had meals brought to my home, the feeling I got from everyone who expressed beautiful memories they had of my mother after she passed away. The feeling I get when I'm teaching children about God and being human. The feeling I get during services, the silent prayer comes, and Cantor sings from the heart who says Shalom. The feeling I get when the shofar is blown, when the Torah ark is open. All of my memories are the best feelings in the world, and Temple Emanuel, Rabbi, and Cantor Karp, and all of you have made these heartfelt memories so special. Happy 150th anniversary. God bless.
rabbi asked us to write these. He didn't tell us that we were going to get up here. And he always has a motivation behind.
Hey, Dan, okay? You have?
Judy and I decided to move to the Quad Cities from Old Park, Illinois in 1985. Judy's father made arrangements for us to meet a realtor at Rule on State Street in Davenport. We came in on a Saturday and after him, and he wasn't there. And a rather short woman, who was very nice, introduced herself and said, "How can I help you?" Judy fell in love with Lois Parker. She became our first touch from Temple Emanuel. She sold us a home, but never really pushed the idea of joining the temple. Although when she found out we were Jewish, she suggested that someday we should join, and that I would probably end up being the president. I have to tell you, I truly laughed at her suggestion because we had been married 9 years. We were not affiliated with the temple. We came to town with our oldest daughter, Alex, and she was 9 years old, and we ended our second child 4 months later when Nathan was born. Judy and I joined Kiwanis, and after we were invited to one of the meetings in which Rabbi Karp was the guest speaker, he gave a speech about what it was like being a Jew in the Quad Cities. The speech was inspiring, but didn't get us motivated enough to join. Several months passed, and we had our two children with us at a gas station, with each of them on our hips. We ran into the rabbi again, and he remembered our names and suggested it was time for us to join the temple. This time we listened to him, and our experience with the rabbi, the Cantor, and the congregation has been extraordinary. We were welcomed and felt like we knew people our entire lives in a very short period of time. We had our third child, Signy, in 1989, and began Sunday school with Alex the next year. 2 bat mitzvahs, 1 bar mitzvah, 3 confirmations later, our Jewish life has been enriched beyond expectations. For years, Judy was involved in the sisterhood, serving as the treasurer and as the chair of the religious school committee. She organized the first Weigle breakfast and the children's services. We both served on the board, and yes, Lois is right. I eventually did become the president of the congregation in 97 to 99. The temple certainly has a rich history filled with amazing stories, and most of all, the congregation is a truly caring and giving approach. Over the years, while we remain a small congregation, the rabbi has been a leader in making the Quad Cities a better place for everyone, not just the Jewish community. We are very proud of our association with Temple Emanuel and excited to share the celebration of the 150th anniversary. Please rise for the
what time I am. Please be seated.
I joined Temple Emanuel in 1989. From my earliest experiences at the temple, I have always found our temple community to be a warm and welcoming one. Even though I was raised in the conservative tradition, I found the temple's form of Reform Judaism to be both refreshing and also a continuation of my Jewish education. After a few years, I was honored to be asked to serve on the board of directors and was humbled to be asked to serve as president of the congregation from 2003 to 2005. Perhaps most meaningful to me, the temple community's commitment to social justice and equality has provided a welcoming environment to my then partner and now husband, Steve Stickler. When same-sex marriage became legal in Iowa, there was never any question but that I would be able to marry in the temple. With family and friends, including members of our temple family, Rabbi and Cantor Karp married us with all of our spiritual traditions. The chuppah, the ketubah, the breaking of the glass, and all. On behalf of Steve and I, we are very grateful to be part of the Temple
Our family joined the temple in 1947. I remember the synagogue on the northeast corner of 11th and Brady Street. The lower level had movable walls for the classrooms. There was a small kitchen downstairs. Upstairs was the sanctuary with a large pipe organ as well as a piano. There were ceiling fans in the rafters. The Ten Commandments stained glass window that is above the ark there is now displayed in our library. I was the last person to have a bar mitzvah there on May 10th, 1952. I just got my thank you notes done last time. The rabbi was Abram Washington Goodwin. I also recall that Sam Ripken would blow the shofar on the High Holy Days and his face would turn bright red. We had a 4-member choir and the seats were theater type. The windows were stained glass. In 1953, the temple moved to 12th Street in Mississippi where we are now. Dr. Leonard Comas, today, he was only 13 then, so he wasn't a doctor, was the first person to have a bar mitzvah in the site. The first rabbi was Martin J. Zion. My two brothers, Jim and Howard, also had their bar mitzvahs here. Likewise, all three of us were confirmed here. In 1985, my parents, Maury D. and Irene Glassman Waxenberg, donated a yurtzeit plaque, the one closest to the Cantor, in honor of their 50th wedding anniversary. On the board, there are 21 Waxenberg names and 3 Glassman names. Someday my name will be added to it. Rabbi Henry J. Karp presided at both my parents' funerals. I really didn't attend Sabbath services until my mother's death on December 15, 1986. After that, I felt it was the right place for me to be on Friday night as well as other holiday observances. To have a temple in existence for 150 years is quite an accomplishment. People came to America for religious freedom, little money, but a lot of hope for the future. In 1861, temple started its existence by simply having services in rooms and buildings, and then having the determination to have them in synagogues at between 4th and 5th on Ripley in 1886, 11th and Brady in 1906, and our synagogue here at 12th and Mississippi in 1953. We have come a long way, just as all of our temple families came to America from a long way off, generations ago. In 2009, Carolyn Draper and I went to New York, City to find the grave of my uncle, who died at the age of 8 when the family came here from Russia. He died at the Ellis Island Hospital in 1921. But little Joseph's dream of religious freedom lives on within the walls of Temple Magna. Some of us will be here in 2036 and some in 2061, hopefully to carry on the Reformed Jewish traditions. A toast to all the people in the past 150 years who made Temple Magna possible, and a toast to all the people who will care enough to carry in the future. Also, I'd like to recognize a person tonight that's sitting in the second row who's given 50 years of her life to Temple Emanuel, and 7 after she retired. Betty Cottrell, would you stand up, please? More years, more hours, more minutes than any person in history. Betty has one word in her vocabulary that says no. She's never used that word in her life. So we can all be proud to know Betty. Maybe some people don't even know her last name. They know her as Betty. And she's as much a part of this temple as the bricks and mortar that hold this temple together.
Is there anyone here tonight who wishes to share any simple moments, any joyous moments in your lives, the life of your family? Just raise your hand. No simples. What a sign. Yes,
Yes, this is a bittersweet, simple moment, but my daughter Sydney, who is 23 and grew up in this synagogue, learned everything about Judaism, well, besides a few things that we taught her, but and also learned Hebrew pretty well. She just moved to Israel and made Aliyah, and she is, as of 2 weeks ago, a dual citizen of Israel and the United States.
That is a bittersweet.
On the other hand, my son's going to go to Ecuador to teach English.
Joanne.
My autistic grandson is graduating from high school this month.
That is a great symbol. I've been there and done that. I know exactly how you feel.
And he's going on.
Okay, that's even better. Andy.
My grandson Josh, the Grand Slam 100, is first base player.
Never did that. Mary.
He's really smart.
He is.
A few weeks ago, we shared our Simchat Emily's engagement. A week later, we are able to say she's a full-time job.
That's great. That's grey. Do you have to get your handouts?
Yeah, my son Jeremy's been accepted to 3 colleges.
Okay. Wonderful. That is wonderful.
Joe was one of 2 students at Columbia that was asked to speak at their 11th annual Simba Awards dinner last night on Paul Over. And Joe is usually modest and welcome, and he gets mad if I say anything. He called me first thing this morning and said, "Mom, wow, it was better than I can imagine." He called over, came up, congratulated him, told him what a great job he did. He had several awards. Monkey must tell him he should run for office. Grandchildren and great-grandchildren.
Okay, very nice, very nice. Paul.
My grandson Michael is Connecticut on a 4-year scholarship to music school of his choice in Hartford, Connecticut.
That's great. You hear that, Helene?
I'll say it in one word, tonight. This is a simple moment for all of us who are here tonight, and those who aren't be able to be here either.
Thank you. Yeah?
My daughter, Sydney, is graduating from Tufts in 1 month, and Judy and I are getting a really big raise.
I appreciate that one as well. Rocket.
My son Ryan, who's here tonight, is graduating with his master's degree in May. And my daughter-in-law, who's also here tonight, Michelle, will be graduating with her master's degree in July.
Mazel tov. That's wonderful. Okay. Anybody else? I'm missing anyone. Then let us turn now to page 20 our prayer book. I'd like you to join me in a prayer for the redemption of Gilad Shalit, the Israeli soldier who has been held captive by Hamas since the summer of 2006. With the empty chair placed on our bima, we stand with Gilad Shalit, the Israeli soldier kidnapped by Hamas. Gilad Shalit is a family with all of the service men and women, and with all those who rise and share the violence of the Arab-Israeli conflict. Our God, the love of grace, shows us be a refuge for all rest, a refuge in times of trouble. So we rescue and full redemption to our Gilad Shalit, who has become captive by the enemy. Strengthen the spirit and bring our prayers, that he be protected from all harm. Implant understanding in the heart of the enemy, that they may return the captive and wholeness by his spirit. Grant wisdom to the Israeli defense forces, that they may secure the freedom without loss of life. Grant strength of spirit and courage of heart to all sons and daughters, Abraham, Sarah, and Hagar, to release sons of captivity and allow us all to live in freedom. They shall call upon me, and I will answer them. I will be with them in distress. I will rescue them, and I will honor them. Now, let us pause to offer a prayer of healing for all those in our congregation and friends of our congregation who are in need of healing. We should offer this prayer on behalf of Bill Brower, Janet Lehman, Maureen Rubin, Mark Brand, Rose Margulies, Rob Markman, Ethel Golden, Karen Meyer, Pauline Levy, Dov Wisnia, Ida Kramer, Myra Sarowitz, Cy Sarowitz, Richard Holtzmark, Roberta Stick, Martha Stone, Leon Finkel, Ariel Sharon, Rabbi Henry J. Karp, Gabrielle Giffords, all the victims of international terrorism, all those who have been injured in the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan, and all those who were injured in the earthquake and tsunami in Japan. And as is our custom, I invite anyone who wishes to add a name to our healing list to raise your hand.
Jeff Paul, Irene Weintraub, Susie Dr. Miller,
Ruth from Vita.
Wilma Black.
From Martin Showtime.
Linda Hamm.
Lorelei Faust.
Mrs. Faust.
Florence Hanshaw, Terry Stickler, and Linda Durr.
Beverly Annish and Winston Reyes.
Esther Weiner and Warren Kurth.
Jerry Evans.
Kaveh El Adonai, Chazak Yametzavecha, Kaveh El Adonai. Hope in God, be strong and let your heart take courage. Hope in God. Merciful God, we pray to you for the recovery of these dear people. Grant them renewed strength and confidence. Give wisdom and skill to those who help in healing. Help all of us to share the anxieties of these illnesses, to be brave, cheerful, and hopeful. Inspire us with courage and faith. Grant your blessings to all who call upon you. Baruch atah Adonai, Rofei HaCholim. We praise you, O God, healer of the sick. Now let us join the Cantor in singing Yishabera.
Find the courage to make our lives a blessing.
is with great pleasure and an extreme honor that we welcome Rabbi Eric Yoffie, President of the Union for Reform Judaism, to Temple Emanuel for the beginning of our 150th anniversary celebration activities. Rabbi Yoffie has led the Reform Jewish movement, representing over 1.5 million Jews in more than 900 congregations across the United States and Canada since 1996. Moving congregational life toward greater attention to Torah study and adult literacy, he has also spearheaded a major expansion of the Union Summer Camp program. In 2005, he introduced the Sacred Choices curriculum to teach sexual ethics to teens in camps and congregations. Reaching out to build interfaith relations, Rabbi Yoffie has been a pioneer in launching movement-wide dialogue with both Christians and Muslims. In 2005, he was the first Jew to address the church-wide assembly of the Evangelical Lutheran Church of America. In 2006, he accepted the invitation of Reverend Jerry Falwell, where he spoke frankly of areas of agreement and disagreement to the students and faculty of Liberty University. In 2007, he was the first leader of a major Jewish organization to speak at the convention of the Islamic Society of North America. He has also worked tirelessly on behalf of the Jewish state and the rights of Reform Jews in Israel, and he's met frequently with Israel's elected officials. Raised in Massachusetts, Rabbi Yoffie was ordained at Hebrew Union College in 1974 and served congregations on the East Coast before joining the URJ in 1980. He and his wife Amy have 2 children and live in Westfield, New Jersey. On a personal note, his relationship building was evident as he introduced me to his good friend and colleague, Rabbi Charles Perloff, also of Westfield, New Jersey. I had always heard of Rabbi Perloff, but had never met him. About 10 days after speaking with Rabbi Yoffie on the phone, I was surprised to get another phone call from the East Coast, and it was from Rabbi Perloff. And we had a warm and wonderful conversation. We think that we might be second cousins. And we hope to meet later this year at the URJ Biennial Convention. Please help me welcome our distinguished guest, Rabbi Eric Yoffie.
Keeps excessive praise on me or anyone else. I think of the story of Frank Lloyd Wright testifying as an expert witness in Chicago. The judge said, "Give your name and occupation." The response, "I am Frank Lloyd Wright, the greatest architect in the world." The judge is taken aback. He asks, "What kind of thing is that to say? Where's your humility?" Wright responds, "But Your Honor, I'm under oath." Recently spoke at a congregation in the Midwest, not too far from here, on the occasion of its 100th anniversary. A woman came through the line after the service and told me I'd given a wonderful sermon. I thanked her. "You know," she said, "the last time we had a visiting speaker, he talked for almost an hour and said nothing. You did it in 20 minutes. That was said quite a long time ago, as I think you know. Rabbi Karp called me, said, "You believe in free speech?" I said, "Absolutely." He said, "Good, you're giving one in Davenport." He said, "Speak as long as you want. We're out of here at 9 o'clock. One more story, and then we get to work. I recently attended a conference in New York City. When I arrived, I looked at the program. I saw a name that was vaguely familiar. I remember this girl in my class at Brandeis University, a very pretty, dark-haired girl that all the guys sort of admired from afar. And I wondered, could this be the same person? So I went to the session where she was a panelist, but when I saw her completely gray hair and lines on her face, I thought, she's way too old to have been my classmate. Nonetheless, when I saw her at the reception after the conference, I walked up to her and I said, "Did you happen to attend Brandeis University?" "Yes, I did," she said. And so I asked, "When did you graduate?" She said, "1969. Why do you ask?" I said, "You were in my class." "Really?" she asked, looking at me very closely. "What did you teach?" I am really honored to be at Temple Emanuel on this Shabbat and to be part of your 150th anniversary celebration. 150 years is not so very long in the history of the Jewish people, but it's a very long time for an American synagogue. In 1861, the year that Temple Emanuel was founded, neither Reform Judaism nor Conservative Judaism existed as a movement here. And the American Jewish community numbered perhaps 100,000 people. In the political world, we weren't even on the radar screen. We were an immigrant community then, and a poor community, struggling to establish ourselves in America. Our vulnerable status was clear from what happened the following year. In 1862, General Ulysses S. Grant issued an order expelling Jews from 3 states in his military district on the grounds that the Jews were, quote, unprincipled traitors. It's interesting to see how far we have all come since that time. In the Congress of the United States today, there are 40 Jewish lawmakers. In the House of Representatives, there are 28 Jews, including the majority leader, Eric Cantor, who's the highest-ranking Jew in the history of the House, and Deborah Wasserman Schultz, who is the head of the Democratic Party. There are 3 openly gay Jewish House members. In the Senate, there are 12 senators, 12 Jewish senators, enough for a minion, with a few senators to spare. In addition, some of our most prestigious universities and corporations are headed by Jews. At the end of last summer, I received an interesting invitation. I actually brought a copy here so you wouldn't think I was making this up. It read, "The Vice President and Dr. Biden cordially invite you to a poolside reception in celebration of Rosh Hashanah on Wednesday, September 9th at the Vice President's residence. Casual attire." When it came to my desk, I was talking to one of our staff members in Washington, and I asked him, "What is this?" His answer, "I think you've just been invited to a Rosh Hashanah pool party." My wife and I attended. When we arrived at the residence, there were staff members every 25 yards or so to direct us, and everyone said, in perfectly accented Hebrew, "Shana Tova." And then last December, we attended the Hanukkah party in the White House, hosted by the President of the United States. This was the 10th consecutive year that such an event had been held. It was lovely in every way. The President and the First Lady presided over the lighting of the Hanukkah candles. And the President proudly presented to the guests Justice Helene Kagan, his appointee, as well as Justices Ginsburg and Breyer, 1/3 of the Supreme Court, as the President pointed out. I'd attended a few Hanukkah parties during the Bush years, and what I remember from my first one is waiting in line while President Bush, the Texas oilman and very gracious host, had his picture taken with each of the guests. All the while, the Marine Band in dress whites played a medley of Hanukkah songs. You haven't lived until you've heard the Marine Band play I Have to Wait. Only in America. In 1861, do you think that your founders, in their wildest dreams, would ever have imagined President Buchanan or President Lincoln hosting such an event? For that matter, imagine suggesting in 1861 that America would have an African-American president by the name of Barack Hussein Obama, whose very first executive appointment would be Ram Israel Emanuel, then the Chief of Staff, and now, of course, the Mayor of Chicago. Last week I heard from a reporter who wanted to talk about the crisis in American Jewish life and about the latest demographic survey. I told this reporter we're tired of these demographic surveys. They don't tell us anything we don't already know. Furthermore, as religious Jews, we do not listen to behavioral scientists. We are a kingdom of priests, not an army of sociologists. We do not take trends to be inevitable. We do not mistake facts for commandments. Whatever the problems, we can reverse the decline. And I added that despite the difficulties that exist, the story of American Jewry is the most awesome success story in all of Jewish history. Let's just pause for a minute and look at our accomplishments. We have fought anti-Semitism wherever and whenever it occurs. And while you know and I know that anti-Semitism never disappears from the human heart, we also know that in America today, for most of us, it is no longer a major factor in our lives. Except in the rarest of cases, American Jews can go to school where they want, live where they want, work where they want, without fear of prejudice or discrimination. And that's not all. We've seen ourselves as guardians of vulnerable Jewish communities abroad, and we haven't hesitated to generate political support for Jews in foreign lands who are under attack. In the last half-century, we focused especially on the state of Israel, whose condition for so many years has been fragile and precarious. But here, too, there are many successes. Israel is today the world's largest Jewish community. She has a per capita income that is higher than half of the countries in the European Union. And she has one of the world's most solid currencies and most advanced technologies. Yes, we still worry about Israel's safety, especially in these perilous times. But my point is this: our community is strong, well-organized, and outspoken, and we fight for our principles and for the welfare of Israel with self-confidence and determination. And there's another aspect to our success, and that's the success of the American synagogue. Now, I know there are those who say synagogues are not as important as they once were. These are those who claim that times have changed. We no longer need to be connected to a place and a community. We live in an era of globalization, and this means, they say, that our contact with other people can be through electronic media. After all, you don't even have to walk out the door to shop anymore. And in fact, that's how a lot of us live. For many people, leisure time is now spent alone in front of a computer screen. It gives you more information you could ever possibly use. In front of a television set that presents us with show after show of really, really stupid reality. But as everyone in this room knows, none of this really works. None of this adds meaning to our lives. And that's why we still come together in religious communities. There are 300,000 religious congregations in North America and more than 2,000 synagogues. In the Reform movement alone, we're making our way towards 1,000 Reformed synagogues. And why are synagogues thriving? Because they provide direction in the face of those who feel helpless, facing life's complexity. Because we resist the solitude that the computer imposes. Because we Jews are people of the covenant, and our lives take on meaning when we practice the ancient and enduring traditions that bind us to our people and our unique Jewish destiny. And that's why congregations continue to thrive. What is a successful congregation? It's a place where members feel cared for and welcome. And an unsuccessful congregation is a place where members feel uncared for and unwelcome. And by the way, my theory is that small congregations are generally more effective than large congregations when it comes to providing caring and community. Bigger is better is the dominant paradigm in our culture, but when it comes to the most important areas of synagogue health, very often it is not true. In most of our small congregations, most of the time, everyone who comes in is warmly welcome. No one is a stranger. The same persons remember you from week to week and take notice when you are missing. And small congregations are fundamentally more self-reliant. The percentage of individuals who involve themselves in synagogue activities is higher. Leadership is more empowered. And professionals do not serve as surrogate Jews. Every member in a small synagogue is a rabbi, a cantor, and a teacher of Judaism. But the greatest advantage that small congregations have is this. They offer possibilities for genuine hospitality and true community. A number of years ago, many large congregations instituted special programs to train their synagogue members to be greeters at Friday evening services. I welcomed this, but leaders of our small congregations could not help but to smile. Tell me, is there a small congregation anywhere that needs to train people to do this? Can you imagine a stranger arriving here on Friday night and not being immediately welcomed, greeted, and embraced? Now let me say a few words about Temple Emanuel. It occurs to me that this is a synagogue that has been supremely blessed. You're blessed with a great Reform heritage. The members of Emanuel know that they are Reformed Jews and are intensely proud of that fact. This congregation has been part of our Reform movement for almost 140 out of your 150 years. You are blessed with a wonderful sisterhood that's among the founding sisterhoods of the Women for Reform Judaism, and that year after year enriches Jewish life in your temple. And you're blessed with a tradition of community and caring like what I just talked about. Emanuel understands the fundamental premise of synagogue life. The synagogue is the one place in the Jewish community that always cares about the individual. Emanuel is a place where everyone is unique and valued and a bearer of God's image, no matter who you are or how much money you have. And it's a place that welcomes Jews by choice, and intermarried Jews and gay Jews, a place that makes its members feel comfortable, embraced, and connected. And this also, it's a congregation blessed with a supportive general community. Your members have given a great deal to Davenport and to all the surrounding cities and towns in the Quad Cities area. And this in turn, in this area in turn has embraced you and welcomed you. It's really very simple, I think. Here at Emanuel, you're committed to the proposition that selfish congregations, like selfish people, wither and die. In fact, from its earliest days, this has been a synagogue that understands what's happening in America. Look around, especially in these difficult times. It sometimes seems that America has splintered into a host of ethnic and religious enclaves, each exalting its own identity while demonizing others. In our cities and on campus, racial and ethnic isolation intensifies, and builders of bridges are increasingly displaced by those who construct barricades and barriers. But Temple Emanuel has always been a champion of the opposite view, that separatism is bad for the Jews, and that Jewish tradition imposes upon us a duty to care for all humankind. This is a congregation that's always reminded us that if we take care only of our own, we forget the meaning of this country. Here, groups can retain their culture and their space, and they should. But they do not surround themselves with impenetrable walls. In other words, to close ourselves off to the needs of others is not only a betrayal of Judaism, it is a betrayal of America. And so look at what you've done here. There was a list in the program booklet I saw, feeding the hungry once a month at the Center for the Homeless, building a habitat house, joining the annual crop walk against hunger, doing Muslim-Jewish dialogue under the auspices of your sisterhood, build water tanks in Africa, on and on and on. Virtually every month this congregation does something to remind its members that Jews are fixers, healers, helpers, and menders. That is our mission, and that must be our way, because if it is not, we forsake our God, we betray our past, and we subvert our future. And finally, you're really blessed with wonderful leadership. This means terrific volunteers, board members, presidents, Robin, and you've heard so many others, Cantor, Gail, Karp, absolutely, for her wonderful music, indeed caring. And most of all, we're blessed with Rabbi Helene. who for more than a quarter century now has been the heart and soul of Temple Emanuel. He is the compass that gives it its Jewish direction, the repository of wisdom who directs its Jewish learning. He's great with your religious school kids and terrific with your B'nai Mitzvah. He's a wonderful teacher, and at sacred moments, marriages, funerals, all ceremonies of the life cycle, he knows just what words to say, and both provide healing and encourage joyful celebration. And he's committed to personal outreach in the temple and in the community. He welcomes, he reaches out, he teaches at a local university, he speaks for Judaism with integrity and courage. He's an extraordinary rabbi, deeply devoted to this place. And you're very fortunate to have him. Thank you for sharing. Now, what will be the future of Temple Emanuel? I can't know for certain. I'd like to believe that something will happen to bring an influx of Jews to this area, and maybe it will. But we can't count on it. Most Midwestern communities of your size are struggling as you are struggling with demographic trends that are not as positive as we would want them to be. But you have deep roots here. You are holding your own, and there's plenty of life left in this synagogue. Your leaders are proud of what they have accomplished. It's a pride that I share. For many, many years to come, this congregation will be strong and vibrant and participatory. You will serve your members, and your Jewish spirit will remain unbroken. So I've said many times and in many forums, you and the other members of our small congregations are, in fact, the true heroes of Jewish life. The Baal Shem Tov, founder of the Hasidic movement, famously noted that the Jewish people are like a living Torah scroll, and every individual Jew is a letter within it. If a single letter is damaged or missing or incorrectly drawn, a Torah scroll is considered invalid. So too in Judaism. Each individual is considered a crucial part of the people, without whom the entire religion would suffer. And so each congregation, no matter how small or isolated, contributes to the inner pulse and power of Judaism, enhancing our dignity and testifying to our faith. This is what Temple Emanuel is, part of the unbroken conversation of Torah, a letter in the scroll, a visible symbol of holy community for your members and for the Jewish people, a guarantor of eternal life. Thank you for what you do, and Shabbat Shalom.
going to say that I feel a little bit like one of those bad reality shows, Last Comic Standing, only I'm the first one kicked off. Thank you very much, Rabbi, for those inspiring and uplifting words, and we're, again, so delighted that you're here today. We also have another little piece of business to take care of tonight. We've come together to acknowledge Rabbi Henry Karp's 25.5 years of service to Temple Emanuel and the Quad City community. Please indulge me for a few moments while I tell you a little bit about Rabbi's history in the last 25 years. Rabbi Karp grew up in Bronx, New York. He always seemed to lead the way and be the first in doing a lot of things. He began teaching as a freshman in college in 1966. He was a member of the first class of students at Hebrew Union College to study for a year in Israel. He claims that he and Cantor Karp were the first official romance at Hebrew Union College. I'm not sure how he knows that because there was no Facebook, no MySpace, no YouTube, no internet, and he could never update his personal
And no women at the school.
And no so he could never update his personal status. Back in the day, anyway. And he was the first rabbi in the state of Iowa to perform a same-gender Jewish wedding ceremony. Following his ordination in 1975, he was a youth director in Lipnick, New York, and an assistant rabbi at Temple Israel in New Rochelle. 2 years later, he and the Cantor moved to Lincoln, Nebraska, and spent the next 5 years falling in love with the Midwest. Following a 3-year period at a congregation in Los Gatos, California, the rabbi and Cantor returned to the Midwest, where the rabbi was hired by Temple Emanuel in the summer of 1985. How fitting that he should end up as the rabbi of the oldest, continuously active Jewish congregation in the state of Iowa. Rabbi Karp became the face of the Jewish community in the Quad Cities. Rabbi, you brought our faith to the outside world, and you brought the outside world to our faith. You are a leader of progressive thought, a champion of those oppressed, and masterful at developing relationships and creating dialogue among our interfaith friends. All just by picking up the phone, because there was no email back then either. Inside our congregation, we have witnessed and been directly involved as you officiated over 600 life cycle events. There have been baby namings, b'nai mitzvahs, confirmations, weddings, and unfortunately, funerals, along with some conversions. They have touched us all. We have all experienced your compassion and moments of passion, calls to action, and public outcries for the injustices around the world. We have also experienced your extreme stubbornness at times, and love of all things, Star Trek, burgers, bagels, and borders. And we witnessed the times when you would playfully tease even the youngest of children with a teaching moment or a round of Stump the Rabbi. A few weeks ago, I even witnessed a transformation in your office. Many of you know what I'm talking about. Okay. The list is long of your varied interests and accomplishments, starting with our close friendship and partnering congregations. You sat around a table with Reverend Dan Schmiegem from Edwards Congregational Church and Charlotte Seleska from the Unitarian Church, and dreamed of a time when you could bring forward-thinking clergy together to be one voice during times of distress and injustices. That dream came together when all of you called upon your colleagues and formed the progressive clergy of the Quad Cities. Fast forward to last year, when hundreds of Quad City Jews, Christians, and Muslims met in prayer at the mosque in Moline for the Day of Unity remembrance out of respect for the tragedy of 9/11. That group, we have a strong and healthy regard for our interfaith brothers and sisters and can find areas of commonality, dialogue, and calls to action. Rabbi, over the years you were first to call for action when it came to projects like starting In From the Cold, developing the Anti-Hate Coalition, supporting Codes for Kids, and many programs that provide food to the hungry like Mazone, the Quad Cities Crop Walk, the Riverbend Food Bank, and the Cafe on Vine. You have been a staunch and progressive voice in favor of women's reproductive rights and equality and justice for all those oppressed without regard for differences in religion, race, gender, and sexual orientation. I've always viewed you as one to be on the leading edge of evolving thought and embracing rather than resisting change. That was evident when you encouraged us to
If I were a lawyer, all day long I'd stand before the bar, contemplating my memoir. Wouldn't have to work hard, I just have my paralegal Xerox what we've done so far. Get me something from the salad bar, I would be a legal superstar. I take those depositions.
No. Wait a minute.
If I were a doctor, I would charge a huge outrageous fee if I had a specialty. Wouldn't have to work hard, I'd just come to work at 10 and get a tea time set for 3. There would be no Medicare for me if I were a single chief MD.
Wait a minute. That's not what I want to do with my life. I want to make more of a difference.
I could be a rabbi. I could take yeshiva SAT, a rabbinical degree. Hebrew Union College, that might be a place for such a fancy schmancy mensch like me. Have to write a thesis brilliantly.
Perhaps something like a socio-political analysis of the various sects prevalent during the Second Commonwealth.
If I were to go to HUC, now you are a rabbi. You've been with us 25 good years. What a fabulous career. Let us tell you thank you. You have seen us through our laughter and our babies and our tears. Let us say it now so loud and clear. We are thankful that you have been here.
Rabbi Karp, Sister has put a leaf on the tree of life to thank you for your 25 years of service at Temple Emanuel. And please rise as we invite Rabbi Yoffie to bless Rabbi Karp.
Mishaberach Abotenu Imotenu, a God who blessed our ancestors, extend his blessing to Rabbi Henry Karp, teacher of Torah, champion of justice, shepherd of this flock, guide to this holy community. Henry, you have served this synagogue with enthusiasm, with distinction, with devotion, with love. May your disciples continue to multiply. May your joys continue to increase. And may your name continue to shine in the annals of this synagogue and of the Jewish people. And this above all, may you be restored completely to good health. May you be blessed with long life. And may you and your family reap the rewards of a life of Torah, mitzvah, and good deeds. And together we say, Amen.
Let's all join in the adoration.
Let us adore the ever-living God. We render praise unto you, who spread out the heavens, established the earth, whose glory is revealed in the heavens above, and whose greatness is manifest throughout the world. You are our God, there is none else, there is none else.
Please be seated. Of course, all that can't do without just a brief comment. You don't need to brief. You know, shortly after I arrived in this community 25 years ago, I had the responsibility for putting together the service for the 125th anniversary. And I did a service somewhat like tonight, but with one major difference. I pulled upon all the meetings I pulled upon were excerpts from rabbis' articles from the past rabbis of our congregation. They're the articles in the scribe, in our bulletin. And it was a long service. And to be quite frank, it was pretty darn boring. This service comes from our congregants, sharing their thoughts and reflections on Temple Emanuel. And that really is all about what has transpired over 25 years. Because it is not the rabbi or the rabbi alone that makes a congregation what it is. It's the congregants. It's what happens when rabbis and congregants come together and share values and respect, love, and commitment to build a congregation. The rabbi is like myself putting together the service. I put the pieces together, but it's the congregants who create the pieces. And that's what has happened over these past 25 years. What I have accomplished has been very little. It's what you have accomplished, and I have had the privilege of participating in. It's been our partnership. It's been our partnership with the folks out in the community, with our three wonderful partners, the Edwards Congregational Church, and and the Unitarian Church, Churches United, and the work that we've started to do with the Islamic community. And all those that we've come together hand in hand to pursue common values. You know, Eric was a year ahead of me at HUC in New York when we were in school together. And obviously, he has gone on to become a great rabbinic success. I mean, how much more successful can you be than being the president of the Union for Reform Judaism? And I respect that success and I honor that success. But you know something? I feel that I've been a success. Yeah. Because how much more successful can a rabbi be than to be in a community of people who the rabbi cares about and who care about the rabbi, and who work together hand in hand, making Jewish life and general life all better. And my time here, my 25 years here have been well spent, and I couldn't ask for a greater lesson. And I thank you all for making those years what they have been for me and my family. Now let us turn to page 23 and join together.
Be this, O God, when your name shall be worshipped from all the earth, when unbelief shall disappear and error be no more. Fervently we pray that the day may come when all shall turn to you in love, when corruption and evil shall give way to integrity and goodness, when superstition shall no longer enslave the mind, nor idolatry blind the eye, when all who dwell on earth shall know that you alone are God. O may all created in your image become one spirit and one friendship, forever united in your service. Then shall your kingdom be established on earth, and the word of your mouth fulfilled, the eternal reign forever and ever.
Each of us stands in the line of time, our arms ever stretching, one toward the past and one toward the future. We could not be the people we are were it not for those who came before us. We are heirs not just to their names and possessions, but to their very selves, to the people they were. Their legacy to us has been one of values. What is right, what is wrong, what is worthy of our time and attention, and what is not. They have taught us the meaning of love and life, of family and friends, when to stand up and when to stand aside. Within us we carry them as they live their lives in their finest moments. They are the very foundations upon which our lives have been built. Reaching toward the future, we transmit their legacy to generations yet to come, and to it we add our own. Let us acknowledge our debt to those who came before us. Let us commit ourselves to preserving that which they held so dear. Let us solemnly vow to keep their memories alive in this world and while they reside in the next. At this time, as I invite the mourners of our congregation to rise, let us call to mind those who in recent weeks have departed this world and have found their eternal rest. Irene Renee Goldstein, the mother of Jeff Goldstein, the mother-in-law of Reggie Goldstein, and the grandmother of Samantha and Jeremy Goldstein, and Rosie Savage, the grandmother of Ginny Brown. I also wish to call to mind my dear teacher and mentor, Rabbi Jack Stern, who passed away just yesterday. We are also reminded of those whose yortzites have occurred during the past week. As I recite their names, I ask that those who held them especially dear rise in their loving memory. Harry Grobstein, Helen Comas, Minnie Lipnick, Joseph Nico, Waxenberg, Seth A. Chestnut, Philip Citrick, Edward Frankel, Louis Alter, William Manson, Mary D. Rosen, Masha Goldberg Fagan, and Matthew Florida. And as we've done our practice over this past year, I invite any of the mourners who wish to share a few moments of reflection and memory of the ones who they recall this evening. Does anyone wish to do so? Jim?
My dad, Matthew Farber, it's interesting we're honoring his memory tonight because when we started this building, he was on the board. As Linda alluded to, he taught Sunday school, and he was a very gentle, kind soul, very sentimental, and I'm sure tonight he would feel very humble and very proud of what this temple has accomplished and what part he played in it. As well as the fact that he taught us, along with my mother, the value of learning about Judaism and service and being involved in the Jewish community in the temple, as I am, and I hope that Hannah and her sister will continue that generation and do the same.
And if I recall correctly, the news article in the Quad City Times, well then it was the Times Democrat, I think, about the opening of this building, it featured a picture of your dad standing in the sanctuary. Anyone else? Stuart.
Two people. One, my dad's uncle, Harry Waxenberg. He was the father of Dick Waxenberg, Maynard, and Evelyn. They were all members of this congregation. Also, Helen Polis was a cousin of mine. I knew her all her life and mine, and she was just a wonderful woman. We had a lot of great times from her family. And her husband was on the building committee of this building.
Anyone else? I would just like to share a memory about Rabbi Jack Stern. For those of you who were here 25 years ago, when I first came to this community, you may remember that Rabbi Jack Stern was the rabbi who came here to conduct my installation. He is the man who I worked with for 4 years as a rabbinic student in his congregation, and so much of the rabbi I am today, I model after him, after all that he taught me. But I couldn't even begin to touch the qualities that he possessed. And when he was here, he told a very interesting story. He said that when he was ordained, he wanted to serve only one congregation. There was a congregation in Lipnick, New York, that was headed by Rabbi Jacob P. Rusin. And he wanted to work with Rabbi Rusin, his assistant rabbi. But Rabbi Rusin had an assistant rabbi. However, although Jack Stern didn't apply for any other congregation, it just so happened that Rabbi Rusin's assistant rabbi left Great Neck. His name was Martin Zion. And he left Great Neck to come to Davenport, Iowa. So Rabbi Stern wanted to thank this congregation so that he could not only be the assistant rabbi to the rabbi of his dreams, but he wound up marrying Rabbi Rusin's daughter. So his whole life was based upon this congregation. I will miss Rabbi Stern greatly. I spoke to him just a short while ago when he called me to ask how I was doing, how my health was. And there was a hole now in my life. Now let us rise as a congregation as well, remembering all those people from generations past and present who gave up their lives so that our people might live. And let us rise also in loving support of all those among us who are called personal ones. And together in submission to God's inscrutable will, let us hallow the name of the Eternal with the words of the conch. Yitgad, Yitgad, Shirei Rabbah, Yamah, Yorah, Yusei, Yamlik, Makusei, V'chai Yekon, Yom Yekon, that we will be passing on the receiving line tonight because we're going to be doing Kiddush and Motzi in the social hall. And I'm sure you don't want to wait till we greet everyone before you eat. So after the benediction, allow those of us on the Bima to step down and get into the social hall. And then will you please follow us and join us as quickly as possible so we can say the blessings and partake of the wonderful morning that's been organized by Barb Nevins and her family. Yes. We imported help.
May we be blessed as we go on our way. May we be united in peace. May we be blessed with health and joy. May this be our blessing. Amen. 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 May this be our blessing. Amen. 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 May this be our blessing. Amen. May we be sheltered by the wings of peace. May we be kept in safety and in love. May grace and compassion find their way to every soul. May this be our blessing. Amen. 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 May this be our blessing. Amen. 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 May this be our blessing. Amen.
Yevarecha Adonai v'yishmerecha.
Adonai bless you and keep you.
Amen. Let's all
May Adonai's face shine upon you and be gracious unto you.
Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom.
May Adonai lift up countenance upon you and give you peace. Amen. Amen.
Shabbat shalom, everyone.
So I write notes. You have to deal with headaches. My headaches sound like it's going to be take out that headache, so. How you doing?
Ladies and gentlemen,
he had everybody. Exactly.